Crazy to think now 3D in gaming was once a novelty, this idea of what the future could hold that no one knew the true possibility of until slowly but surely it got ushered in full throughout the early mid-1990s. But for many players, they weren't truly introduced to this brand shining new medium of entertainment until the release of Super Mario 64. Obviously, this was far from being anywhere near the first 3D game ever, but it did a fantastic job at initiating newcomers into what the future held. What with its simple yet fun as hell control scheme that was really easy to grasp despite the fact players had to use this thing. Now, a lot of people like to poke fun at the Nintendo 64 controller because of how weird it looks, but if you ask me, there's only one real problem with it overall, and it's that I don't have 3 fucking hands. But either way, everyone agreed that Mario 64 itself was this great transitional title into the world of 3D. Everyone, that is, except for Nintendo themselves. See, a lot of Nintendo's executives, such as Yoshiaki Koizumi for instance, thought the game was alright enough at showing people who had already played lots of 2D games how 3D worked and all, but to people who've never had to hold a whatever the fuck this thing is, it left a lot to be desired. It left new players lost, not knowing where to go or how to really control Mario or what to do at all, with things like camera control and depth perception being way too complicated for these normies to figure out. Now, I personally don't 100% agree with that, but I will say there is something to it. God, I remember trying to get my mom to play Mario Galaxy once, and it was like teaching a shoe how to fly. Hey, surprisingly, more effective than you may think. Be free, my love. Either way, Nintendo's plan now was to focus on making those features that made 3D games so complicated more streamlined, more understandable to a wider audience, and with the Nintendo 64's disk drive releasing soon, what better way to embark on some of those new design principles than with a sequel, often called Super Mario 64 2, before someone realized how often stupid and confusing this sounds, so most commonly referred to as Super Mario 128. Cheeky. The game, according to Miyamoto, was going to contain Luigi, and they were potentially working on a 2-player co-op mode for the game, which is a genuinely pretty cool improvement over the first one. The problem was, the N64 disk drive was an absolute embarrassment of a failure like never seen before in company history, which is saying a hell of a lot. So, Mario 64 2 got cancelled and the team moved on to the next thing, kinda. At Space World 2000, Nintendo shut off this tech demo video of 128 Marios directed by Yoshiaki Koizumi, running around to show off the processing power of the GameCube, all the things it could do, its graphics, the landscapes, and versatile physics it had under its belt, that sort of thing. One of the main features here being these spherical-based platforms with their own gravitational center to keep players from falling off and getting lost, and while this weird-ass little project looked like it was just a tech demo, Nintendo always insisted, nah, this is a real game we're working on separate from the GameCube's 3D Mario title, one that'll take a metric ton and a half of effort from talented developers that'll give fans the newness Mario Sunshine lacked, that this was truly the successor to Super Mario 64 like it was always planned to be. And all they had to do was find a clever and technologically possible way to implement those darn spherical-based platforms when it eventually releases for GameCube, which never happened. Sort of. Apparently Mario 128's advanced gameplay concepts were fundamental in the creation of Metroid Prime and Pikmin, which is pretty cool. But year after year after year, Nintendo would hype up Mario 128. Oh, it's this huge project that's gonna change the game and redefine Mario. Just you wait, it's happening. But then every year, E3 would come and go with little to no mention of this game. It was crazy, man. And it got to the point where discussion switched to if Mario 128 would come to the GameCube at all. With even Miyamoto himself saying in 2004, quote, Super Mario 128 is moving along secretly like a submarine under the water. When developing, we often look at the different hardware and run different experiments on it and try out different ideas. There have been a number of different experiment ideas that we have been running on the GameCube. There are some that we've run on the DS, and there are other ideas too. At this point, I just don't know if we'll see that game on one system or another. It is still hard for me to make that decision. I am the only director on that game right now. I have the programmers making different experiments, and when I see the results, we will make the final decision. And at the request of then-President Satoru Iwata, it became official. Not only would Mario 128 eventually be released for the company's next big innovative home console, but that console, the Nintendo Revolution, would be heavily based around Mario 128. Hear it from the horse's head yourself. It's no longer a surprise, but Super Mario 128 will be renamed, obviously. That won't be the only surprise next year. We designed the Revolution with this new type of game in mind. It plays a significant role in the design, just like Mario 64 did in its time. But we can't base our new console solely on it. We're working on expensive products and development, very impressive ones that push interactivity to the extreme. Games of a new era. This game, now known internally as Super Mario Revolution, heavily based around the spherical platforms of Mario 128, was directed by Mario 128 director Yoshiaki Koizumi. It makes perfect sense. Well, what's the dumbest thing he could say? Making characters jump in a 3D environment is absurd?
Yeah, when shoes fly.
Apparently that interview's been taken down, so I got no goddamn clue what the hell he was talking about, but the game's producer Takeo Shimizu agreed, saying it made much more sense and was a lot easier for the attack in a 3D game to be a spin rather than a jump. Says fucking who? But because of that, Mario was always planned to have a spinny move thingy straight from the start, with the move originally being activated by flicking the GameCube's analog stick around before the whole Nintendo Revolution switch happened and motion control was implemented. But like I said, the main focus here was to make a game anyone could jump into without even having seen a video game before, ever. Super Mario Revolution was built to appeal to an audience aged 5 to 95, and a big part of that was implementing a second player mode for babies. It was for fucking babies. Listen, this game's a true blue masterpiece, but I've never met a single person, even someone as young as 5, like me as a kid, who liked being second player here. All you do is essentially control a second pointer that can collect and shoot star bits. There's not a lot more to it than that. But Nintendo, and specifically Miyamoto, still made a huge stink about it, so, there's that. And of course, things changed over time. The Nintendo Revolution became the Nintendo Wii, and likewise, Super Mario Revolution became Super Mario Galaxy. And upon its release 1 year after the Wii's, it became quickly apparent, oh shit, this isn't just a fantastic experience that's really fun to play, no, this is straight up one of the best games ever made. Between its exceptional design, its incredible soundtrack, its wall-breaking ideas, and I think more than anything, the beautiful tone it has, the inherent contrast between fun, lighthearted Mario and being something deeper, atmospheric, the feeling of bittersweet loneliness among the cosmos. Ultimately, there is nothing quite like this game. Well...